Hi, welcome to another episode of the Total Kit Car History Files series. My name's Steve Holt, editor at TKC MAG and totalkitcar.com, and I warmly welcome you to the Total Kit Car YouTube channel. Straight in this time, no mucking around. We've got a nice, concise little audio video, if that's such a thing. But don't forget, please, don't forget to subscribe and like. That would help us greatly. Please me incredibly. I'm easily pleased. But if you could support the channel, and it's totally free to subscribe, and we try and get one of these videos out, depending on workload, every 1 to 2 weeks. So you are guaranteed to get some stuff that you hopefully like. Plenty of subjects coming up. We've also got over 50 videos already on the channel, so feel free to have a trawl through and see what you might like. Anyway, straight into this one. Interesting. The Vincent marque, primarily Martin Vincent, a very clever man was Martin Vincent, a very clever man indeed. Multifaceted guy as well, because he's got different strings to his bow, as we come to that. The first model he was based in Henley, was Martin, and I think when he launched the Hurricane, along with his brothers Robin and Jeremy, he been running a motorcycle courier business in his I think his hometown of Henley. I think showing how much of a clever engineer he is. He'd also spent time as a mining engineer, I believe, as well. But I'm not just 100% certain about that. But I do believe that to be true. But anyway, they also specialised. Sorry, let's start again. The Vincent brothers opened a company that was specialised in Triumphs. They serviced, restored, and tuned Triumphs. So it's no surprise to find that the Hurricane was based on Triumph Spitfire Mark 1, 2 or 3, with a windscreen sourced from the Mark 4 or 1500, just to spread the love around, I suppose. But the Hurricane's a good car, period looking car. Proved pretty popular for a while, or quite a while actually. And it really was a clever concept. You could use, Spitfire was the way to go with that. And back then, I mean, Spitfires and GT6s now in particular are very sought after, affordable, if that's the word for classics. Back then, they were anything but, and that's kind of that's a fact, really. Martin, later we're going to talk about the MPH and the Brooklands in a minute, but Robin ran the Vincent Engineering, the Hurricane cars. Oh, sorry, yeah, the Hurricane side of the business. I think he concentrated on that one. In later years, Martin, as I said, proving how versatile he is, was a motoring journalist, stroke magazine editor. He definitely edited a magazine called Japanese Performance for a time. Wrote for Philby and also wrote for Clive Howson, and worked for Clive Howson as well. As for the Hurricane, by about 1987, it was taken over by John Ingram's Domino Cars concern. I think John had been making the fiberglass, or was making the fiberglass for the Vincent models. And he briefly, well, I don't know, briefly had it for a couple of years. I'm not sure how many kits he did. But it went to a guy called Les Stewart, based in Solihull. I think he traded as Vincent Engineering. His company, I think he was a glass fibre specialist, because I think his main company was called Glass Fibre Mouldings. And he had that project for about 4 years. In 1995, it then shifted down to West Sussex to Burgess Hill based Caban Engineering, run by a chap called Andy Hitchings. I think at last tally that was probably still with them, though it hasn't really, I don't believe, has been available for some time. But a good car, really good car, the Hurricane. Anything that Martin Vincent touched was a very good car indeed. The MPH is the one that Martin's primarily, I guess, known for, really. That was a traditional roadster, a very, very pretty one. In the same vein as an NG or a Marlin, I guess. They were very much the rivals for the product. And the Vincent MPH, as the name, if you know your classic cars, there was I think it was mid-30s, a Riley MPH, and I think they only made 15 of the originals. And Martin and Robin came up with a replica of that particular car, which is a very, very pretty car, as Neil's photos that he puts up here will show if you weren't aware of it. The original version that Martin made, and Martin and Robin made, it was a real peach, really. It was I suppose nowadays with in the hot rod game they call a rat rod, one that looks very basic, no paint to speak of, looks lived in, patinaed or whatever the word is, if that's such a word. Plenty of patina to it, patina. And it was a real peach, the first one he did. It was very basic in style, deliberately so, and he ate the Riley with it. It was very much how the Riley would have been in 1935. I think Martin had seen, I think his inspiration came after he'd seen an MPH, a Riley MPH, in a supermarket car park. And I think during, and that he kind of got his taste buds going, and I think during the preparations, so it goes, that he discovered, I'm led to believe, that one of his Hurricane customers had a genuine MPH undergoing restoration. So he referenced that car, the original, for his own replica. The MPH featured a one-piece GRP body by John Ingram, I'm almost certain, that had integral floor front bulkhead, underpinned by a perimeter style chassis as per traditional roadster norm, really, but very stiff chassis, had loads of cross bracing, and the car was a beautifully built thing, very solid feeling. Power for that would usually come from the ubiquitous Crossflow 1.3, or of course a 1.6, or you could also use the Pinto engine in 1.6 or 2 litre guys. He also, and this was quite interesting, I'm not sure how many he did of these, but a Fiat Twin Cam from 1986 was an option. That would have been a beautiful engine for a Vincent MPH. Loosely, the donor was an Escort Mark 1, and I shudder to think of that nowadays, given how collectible and sought after Escort Mark 1s are. And it had a very clever, typical Martin Vincent really, rear suspension. It used the donor Escort's live axle, but he ditched the leaf springs and added twin parallel trailing links, a panhard rod, and coilover dampers. Which was very clever, and it worked particularly well. The front suspension featured Spitfire double wishbones, I think, from memory. When Martin decided he wanted to change career, and as I mentioned briefly earlier, he wanted to pursue a career in motoring journalism, the project went to Neil Johansson of Swindon Sports Cars in 1986, possibly. And Neil had it for about 3 years. And he did some modifications to that, and he introduced, for example, I wouldn't really call them doors, they were like doorlets, I suppose, into the body, which he said that was customer demand, really. Indeed, Martin, actually thinking about it, Martin was editor of Which Kit magazine for a time, so silly me forgetting that, but yeah, very good journalist, Martin. Following Swindon, or Neil Johansson's period as custodian of that project, he's one of his erstwhile employees, an definitely IndyCar mechanic, Tony Dvornik. Forgive me, Tony, if I'm mispronouncing your surname, but that's how I see it. And he went out on his own, and he took over Dvornik Engineering, and he took over the project in 1987. And he was based in Chiseldon in Wiltshire, but he soon moved to Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. And he set about revising the MPH into a Mark III version, which had many revisions. He revised the suspension, he revised the cast aluminium radiator surround, and he'd also enlarged the doorlets into doors that Swindon Sports Cars had introduced. Yeah, and I think Dvornik was a skilled engineer, or he's a skilled engineer. He'd worked for a variety of top race teams in the USA, and I think also in the UK. I do believe he worked for March Engineering for a time, as well as Andretti in the States. And he was doing that, I think, for quite a while he was still marketing the MPH and Brooklands models. So therefore they took a little bit a back seat for a while, and while he was away. Tony, I think, moved to Headington in Oxfordshire in 2008, where I believe he still resides. Very clever man, Tony. I think in all there could have been as many as 100 Vincent MPHs produced. The Hurricane, sorry, beg your pardon, we talked about that. The Brooklands, that's an age thing. Sorry about that, readers. The Brooklands was a sister, very similar to the MPH. Brief time, I think it was known as the Sports as well. But anyway, it's not in my memory. It was a more stripped out competition version of the MPH, very much aimed at the sprint and hill climb markets. A real hardcore traditional roadster, and all the better for that, really. Martin produced a chassis from a thinner gauge tubing, put extra cross bracing, and he revised the suspension to allow for the hill climbing and sprint disciplines. And that too went off to Dvornik Engineering in 1987. Swindon Sports Cars initially, and then to Dvornik. For all I know, I haven't spoken to Tony Dvornik for a while. You may still be able to buy an MPH from him, and I guess that also means Brooklands, although I may be wrong. I'd like to think you still could buy one. But anyway, that kind of rounds up this neat little 10-minute video on the skills of Martin Vincent, and not to mention his brothers Robin and Jeremy. I think Jeremy went off to do his own thing pretty early on, I think, leaving Robin to work with Martin. I think that's the way I see it anyway. If I'm wrong on that, then I apologise. But yeah, great car. If you get chance, if you're in the market for traditional roadster and you're looking for an NG, or you think you're looking for a Marlin, very good cars, both, and both of those feature in video. No, NG doesn't. We've got one upcoming on that, I think. I don't do these in order, and we've got them sort of backed up, and so therefore I honestly can't remember if we've already got one on, but we've certainly got one coming, if not. But back to what I was saying, and if you are in the market, if you are in the market for a second-hand or a previously enjoyed NG or Marlin, and you fall upon a Vincent MPH, or less likely a Brooklands, because I think only a large handful of those were made, snap it up, because it's a fantastic car. It really is a fantastic traditional roadster. So it's right up there. It may not be as well known as the products of NG and Marlin, but well worth investigating. Anyway, thanks for giving up a chunk of your day to spend time on our little YouTube channel. If you haven't already, as I say, please consider subscribing and liking. And in the meantime, wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is, thanks for visiting. I look forward to welcoming you again next time, and thank you very much. Cheers.